to meet via Zoom during this COVID-19 outbreak. So with that being said, the first thing I'd like to do is ask everyone, I'd like to have a moment of silence in memory of Larry Hamilton, a longtime city engineer who passed away last week, and we celebrated his life last Friday as the funeral arrangements were done on that day. So let's have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. We'll also be taking up a resolution in honor of Larry later on in our meeting. I'm going to move around just a minute. I know we have 2 donation requests, one from Bethany Haven Room at the Inn and another one from the Stephen Foster Drama Association. I think we have Matt Bowman on this meeting, I think, with the Bethany Haven Room at the Inn request. And I believe Johnny Warren and another member of the drama staff will be talking to us about the Stephen Foster Drama's request. So Matthew, are you available to speak to us on this?
I am indeed. Are you ready for me to speak on it?
Yes, sir.
All right. My name is Matt Bowman. I'm the chairperson of the board of directors of Bethany Haven, which also sponsors the Room in the Inn program. Many of you have been involved with the Bethany Haven program or perhaps the Room in the Inn program. Perhaps your church is one of the more than 20 churches and religious organizations that participate in our Room in the Inn program here in Bardstown and Nelson County. Our request is the same as our request was last year in what you granted, which was $10,000. It is the same as what we are requesting from the fiscal court and what the fiscal court granted to us last year as well. The fiscal court also pays our lease payments at the transition shelter in addition to that $10,000 that they provide to us. You can see in the request, our budget this upcoming year is $134,000. So between the city of Bardstown and fiscal court, the support that the city and the county give to us represents about 20% of our overall operations budget for the year. And this is for the fiscal year, which for us began on 1 July, just last week or so, and runs through June 30th. I can talk a little bit about the services that we provide, if that would be helpful, Mayor.
That would be fine. And have you all changed your location where they meet in the evenings? Or is it still?
We still have the intake at the First Presbyterian Church, which is kind of catty corner to St. Vincent de Paul. And for, during the pandemic, we had to cease the way that we were normally doing our Room in the Inn program because honestly, we had a lot of our volunteers are in the vulnerable population. And so we transitioned during the governor's Healthy at Home time period with the limitations there to where we were housing individuals in the Hampton Inn. Thanks to the kind generosity of the owners of the Hampton Inn and the manager there who significantly reduced, very significantly reduced the amount that they were charging. So we were able to handle that in that regard. As of June 10th, we transitioned back to our regular Room in the Inn type program where the individuals come to the intake at the First Presbyterian Church and then rotate at different places each night during our summer season. And our summer season runs through September 30th. I will tell you that we have had a difficult time getting enough volunteers because of the vulnerability of most of the ages of our volunteers. And we've had significant costs incurred as a result of the pandemic. But luckily, the community has stepped forward through the Tri-County United Way and through some other grants that we have received specifically directed toward COVID-19. We've been able to cover those costs. So the $10,000 that we are requesting is to cover our normal operation costs that we have. I will tell you that we do believe that we will see a very significant increase in the need for our services once the moratorium on evictions is lifted, and once the time has passed since the stimulus payments, as well as depending upon what Congress does in regards to the unemployment continuation. Most of you have probably read the news articles and realized that in Kentucky, the number I saw that was that in both May and June, 20% of the renters did not make their lease payments. And that confirms with what we've been in contact with property managers here in town, and that confirms with what they've told us as well, that there is a large backlog of evictions that are pending. And so we at Bethany Haven have we've created a committee, and we've been meeting weekly for the last several months, trying to figure out how we can increase our capacity. And we've come up with several ways to do that. And to try to do that no later than September or October. And one of these ways is, many of you may be aware that we purchased a piece of property catty-corner to where we're currently located. And our intent was to tear that property down and to build a new facility. And we had done quite a bit in preparing for that, including having an architect and visiting all sorts of other shelters to come up with an ideal model shelter. We've actually gotten prices, and we're beginning our fundraising for that. But we've since the pandemic, we've moved that from a 1 to 3 year plan to probably a 5 to 10 year plan, and we are in the process of getting that piece of property, the house that's on there, which is solid. It needs a lot of renovations, but to renovate that over the next 2 months and have that prepared for individuals, hopefully by September. And that's where we are anticipating September, October, November, when we're going to see this large increase. We have certainly received an increase in the numbers of people who are calling, but that's what we're doing to try to prepare. We're also talking to property managers and trying to access already existing housing stocks so that and make some type of arrangement where we can assist in getting individuals who are homeless back into some type of housing. We truly are the very last safety net for individuals. I know that there's been significant money that's been applied to community action and some of the other places that will help pay that some rent while you're already in it. And by the time our individuals are coming to us, they are homeless, and they typically have very poor credit. They typically have at least one eviction, if not multiple, and typically all sorts of other issues that we're having to address to help them get back on their feet. So that's what we're trying to prepare for. We are also doing a couple other things to try to get prepared, including we're utilizing for the first time, AmeriCorps volunteer, and we're also entering into an agreement with Spalding University to access some of their social workers who are in their master's program who have to do a practicum, so that we can get case management services. Again, once you're homeless, you have all sorts of issues and many issues that need to be addressed in order to help you get back on your feet. And so a big part of increasing our capacity is being able to access case management on a significant basis. And we're trying to address that and get prepared for that. But that's what we're trying to do you know, as a result of the pandemic and what we see as coming. And so instead of waiting for it to get here, we're trying to get prepared for it.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Councilwoman Hart is the sponsor of this. Betty, do you have anything else to add, or is there any questions from the council members on this request?
The only thing I want to add is I want to thank Matthew and all of his board and committee for everything that they're doing. They've certainly taken on a big project, and they know that this is probably going to be their greatest number coming up in the fall. So I certainly thank them for their efforts.
Well, I will tell you that we are more blessed by what we do on our behalf, on behalf of others than what we're able to give. So we're very blessed to be a part of what we do.
Matthew, is this service still restricted to only people who can be verified that are residents of Nelson County?
Our service has never been restricted to just Nelson County. We do keep stats, and over 70% of the individuals we see are from Nelson County, have Nelson County ties. Most of the ones that are transitional, and we keep stats of how long they stay. For individuals who do not have Nelson County stats, their average stay is between 2 and 3 days. For, you know, it's much longer, obviously, if they do have Nelson County. So, you know, typically what we see are individuals who are passing through is, you know, something, they came here to Nelson County for some reason, and whatever it was, it fell through, and they just need to get home, or they are truly passing through, and they don't tend to stay. You know, we put them up for a couple of nights and they head on.
Okay. Any other questions?
Matthew,
Matthew?
It's Joe Buckman, Matthew. In the summer, does the room in the inn, do you all do that in the summer too? I thought that stopped when the weather got warm.
No, we do it in the summer as well. We started just with the winter program. We did that for a couple of years, and then we added the summer program. And I will tell you, our numbers aren't as great in the summer program as they are in the winter program. But we do have, I don't know that we've ever had a night where we didn't have anyone, even in the summer program.
What do you average men, like room in the inn and then Bethany? What do you average a night?
Well, it varies. The maximum that we're set up to take is 12 individuals. And so we've gotten up to 11. I don't know if we've never had to turn someone away. I know that. We have gotten to 11. I don't know if we've gotten to 12. We average, in the wintertime, we average about 7 or 8. And in the summertime, I think our average is, you know, I don't want to say half a person, but it's between 5 and 6.
David, how many churches participate in this program?
We have over 20 churches and religious organizations that participate. Some of the smaller churches will join in with some of the other churches. You know, one church might not really have the facilities to host overnight, and another church will join in with them, perhaps provide the meals or some of the volunteer innkeepers as part of that. For instance, I know that the Ascension Episcopal Church and St. Monica's are in together. It seems like there's another one that escapes me off the top of my head that joins in with that. But there are over 20. I think the last count was 22, which is, you know, which tells wonderful things about our community to have so many churches and organizations involved.
Just one more question, Beth. If you ever get your Bethany Haven, your new building, what kind of money are you talking about needing?
We did get a couple of estimates on it, and it's about $1 million. And it would be able to house significantly more than what we have right now. You know, right now we typically have we almost always have a waiting list. And so we designed this so that we could address that waiting list. I will tell you that it is multi-pronged. Homelessness is multi-pronged. Part of the issue is a lack of low-income housing in our community. It is significant. As Bardstown prospers, there is typically less and less low-income housing. And I will tell you that, Section 8 usually has a waiting list. If they even have the waiting list open, the average time on the Section 8 waiting list is 18 months. The average time for public housing is right around 18 months as well. As you're probably aware, public housing has been built since the 1970s, maybe the early 80s at the very latest. And when Bardstown had got a lot of its public housing was when Bardstown was much smaller. So, we have a difficult time when someone really cannot afford to be in an apartment without it being subsidized. If you have a single mom who has kids who's making $9 an hour, she really can't afford to pay a regular price for an apartment. And she really does need to be in some types of subsidized housing. And it just is a long wait to get into that. There are a number of issues. There are a number of issues with homelessness is what I've discovered. And we try to address as many as we can. And even with what we do, we still have to turn people away, which is very heartbreaking. We're trying to get to a position where we don't have to do that. In the last 6 months, we turned away a husband and a wife with 6 children. We turned away a mom with 5 children. We turned away a mom with 4 kids because we just did not have the room. And these were all Nelson County people that, we're trying to get to the point where we're not turning away people. But that's in the future.
All right, any other questions? Matthew, ask then, is there a motion to approve this donation request or any other discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve the $10,000 request for Bethany Haven, please.
All right, we have a motion by Councilwoman Hart. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
I think that was Roland. Councilman Williams on the second. Any other discussion? All in favor, then signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign. It's like the motion is carried. Thank you all, and thank you, Matthew, and good luck with your all's work.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the City Council for their support. It's very important. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, our next request is from the Stephen Foster Drama Association. And I know we have Johnny Warren here. I think theirs is kind of a 2-part request. So Johnny, I'll let you, and I think there's one other person going to join you, speak to this if you don't mind. And
hi, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to apply for the community grant through the City Council. I request, my name is Johnny Warren, Executive Artistic Director of the Stephen Foster Drama Association. And with me, I have our Assistant Director and longtime cast member, Donna Phillips, who will talk with you in just a moment. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Johnny. Hello, Council.
Hello.
Our request is 2-part. We're requesting $5,000 to support what we're considering a post-COVID marketing plan. Last year, the City Council supported the printing of our souvenir or our season brochure and the distribution of that, which was a really important part of our marketing plan. And as we approach 2021, we're reviewing what are going to be the best opportunities for us in terms of marketing and advertising to draw people to Bardstown to see the Stephen Foster story. And that is a request for support in the spring. More immediately is a request for $5,000 to support the creation of a Black History Advisory Council for the Stephen Foster Drama Association. as many of you know, the Stephen Foster story, Stephen Foster's history and history of enslaved people in America intersect in a way that's depicted in our show. And right now, when we're in the midst of a global movement to focus on racism and social justice, we feel that perfect time for us to double down on our efforts to make sure that the depictions of Black history in the Stephen Foster story are appropriate and meaningful. And so that's the goal of this council. So far, I have several people who have already agreed to serve on this council, and I'll just quickly run down the list before I let Donna talk to you about what some of our goals are. Donna Phillips, who is Assistant Director and cast member of the Stephen Foster story. Myself, I would serve on the council. Angela Nance Crenshaw is former or Black history consultant for the company, as well as a cast member of the Stephen Foster story. She also is the chair of the Kentucky African American Heritage Council, which is established by the governor. Michael Bolden is our music director and a former retired Louisville Public School. Aidan Hudson is the artistic director of the Black Classical Artists of Louisville. He's also associate professor of music at Bellarmine University and local music chairperson of Kentucky's Governor's School for the Arts. Kevin Lacey is a young cast member that was new to us last summer. Grew up in Georgia and currently enrolled BFA music theater student at Elon University in North Carolina. Ellen Baker Finn is one of our board members, and she's going to serve on the council, as well as Richard Blanton, another cast member and assistant director for the Stephen Foster story. So I'm really encouraged by the group of people that we have who are interested in taking on this conversation and this project and moving forward our efforts to depict Black history. So with that set up, Donna, I would love for you to share with the council first, why now, and why is it important for us to focus on this project now?
First, I'd like, as a point of introduction, I've been associated with the show for about 15 years non-consecutively, but for over 20 years altogether. Also, I am a playwright. I'm also a church musician, also a seminary student currently studying marriage and family therapy, as well as divinity. And I'm also a musician and composer. So I bring all of these hats with me as a Black woman when I'm a part of the show. And it also, because I'm also a creative person, I bring all of these ideologies with me when I'm looking at our show as well. One of the things that we've come to recognize about our show is that it contains a lot of elements that are about race relationships in America as they pertain to Stephen Foster's music and the time and era in which he lived. We also recognize that over time, many of our audience members have lost connection with that part of our history and are not necessarily understanding the messages that are in the show. The show was written to basically show that oppression of Black people was not a good thing. Unfortunately, that message is not always clear. And so we feel that we have a duty to educate and to try and draw those connections and put this show in context for our audiences. In addition to that, we feel it's very important that we re-examine how Black characters are portrayed in the show, that we are making sure that we are as historically accurate as possible, that we avoid some certain stereotypes that have become negative within our society. And so these are some of the things that we would like to do with this money as we look at our show, re-examine it, create an education piece for our audiences. We think that we have an opportunity to educate about systemic racism and our history through this show.
Thank you for that, Donna. This support would serve to pay the participants of this council, as well as some items of content that we anticipate creating. Signage under the veranda at the theater, a print collateral piece that people could take home with them to that would further explore Black history as it's presented in the show. Some video content that our audience could consume prior to seeing the show or after the show, all of which to just serve to broaden the experience of seeing the Stephen Foster story.
All right, thank you, Johnny. I think Councilwoman Hart, are you the sponsor of this as well?
Yes, I am, Mayor. Thank you.
That's okay. I think I remember you being the sponsor last year.
Right. You know, the drama is one of the things that's very near and dear to all of our hearts. And I applaud them. You know, they're not able to have a season this year. So obviously they're losing income off of that, but they're making use of their time to explore this idea, which I think is very, very important to them. So I certainly support their efforts for that. I know next year will be challenging as far as their budget because of not having a season this year. So they certainly have a lot of fundraising to do. So I support both the $5,000 for both causes.
We have other questions from the council members.
So Mayor, last year, did we do 5,000 for the Stephen Foster story, or did we do 10,000?
I think the way I might be wrong on this, but it seemed like to me the way it hit, that was Bethany Haven, that we were able to spread that over 2 budget things. I think my memory is correct. We did 10, unless Aaron, I'm not sure if Aaron took the time to look this up today or not. If you have any record of that.
I did not, but I do believe we did 5 later in the fiscal year. But I think there was another 5 in the beginning of last fiscal year.
I feel like Johnny Warren can probably answer that. I'm sure he knows.
I can. It was 5 for the fiscal year, and it was for that supporting the print brochure.
Right. We got so you're kind of a similar request, but then the other thing is the Black and African American history part of it that is new this year.
That's right.
And Johnny, am I correct? Once you all go through this process, you'll be creating new scripts, which is another cost on top of that, because that's a very expensive cost to do that.
That is another cost that we expect to incur, is the editing and reprinting of our scripts that our company uses to learn the show every year, in addition to some edits to our cast recording and reprinting of our cast recording, which is a great revenue source for us through our gift shop and online sales. That cast recordings.
If you don't mind, Mayor, just to interrupt, just to remind the council that this year's budget, we have $35,000 in community development grants and $15,000 between the mayor and council contingency funds in this year's budget. So you've approved the 10 for Bethany Haven, so it takes it down to 25 in the community development grants, plus the 15.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying, we have a total of about 50,000 that we could give to these type of requests if we get into the contingency funds outside of what they might normally be used for.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Is there any other questions of Johnny from the council members?
I just have a comment, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I think this is this new approach to Black and African Americans' participation in the Stephen Foster story is something whose time has come, and I commend both Johnny and Donna for making us aware that they're wanting to do this.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you, Councilman Williams. All right, if there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion to either approve this request or
Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve the request for $10,000.
all right, we have a motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Jones. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. Johnny and Donna, thank you for updating us on this new effort you're all going to have, and good luck with it, and wish you all the best this coming new season 21.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your support really does mean so much to us. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Johnny. You all are important to us here in the community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm still going to be skipping around a little bit. I know we have some people on the meeting that are going to make a presentation to us on the fire department flooring primer. So Chief, if you would like to introduce this agenda item to us, please.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Everyone should have gotten a copy of the email that Marshberry Cornett sent out to Greg and myself. The good news is we are on the downside of this project. It seems like it's been going on for a long time, but they are now in the process of cleaning up the job site, cleaning the building up. Our plans are hopefully Thursday to do our punch ticket walkthrough and get that situation taken care of. So it is coming along. One of the last projects that we were going to do is the apparatus bay floor. It's just a solid concrete floor now and so forth. And I do have members of the company that had bid at that project for us on with us tonight that they can answer questions and explain a little bit more. But what has happened is that we found out there is too much moisture in the concrete itself, and they're scared that it will not cure onto this concrete and therefore possibly void the warranty of it. It's a 1-year warranty on this floor. There are several options that we could go with. Excuse me. One of them is not to do anything to the floor at all, leave it as it is, which myself and Greg have discussed it, and we're kind of not in favor of that at all. It would be slick as guys come back from fires and so forth. Their boots could be wet, and as they get off the trucks, you have a big potential there of someone falling and hurting themselves. Another option would just go ahead and apply the flooring that they have talked about and not put the sealer down. But once again, you won't have the warranty, and they can address that with us a little bit more also. Or our third option is to go ahead and put the sealer down and then, excuse me, have this floor coating put down at that time. There is, if we do nothing, there is around a $30,000 credit that we would get back from the project. And if these gentlemen, if they would like to add anything on how I explained it, they feel free to go ahead and jump in.
Thank you, Billy. This is Alex Kaufman with Kaufman Flooring. He actually did a very good job of explaining the situation. What we did is we placed moisture probe test in the concrete to read the relative humidity. When you coat a concrete slab, it's analogous to sealing it. So if you think about it, if there's any moisture that's moving through the concrete, which is very porous, it would have an ability to peel the surface layer of the epoxy off of the concrete. So you would have failures where the moisture vapor emission exceeded the tolerances of the epoxy coating. So the manufacturer Duraflex, when the levels are above 75% of relative humidity, they recommend the use of a moisture mitigating primer. And what that does is that seals the moisture vapor emissions down into the concrete and allows for an appropriate bond of the epoxy coating system. And if for whatever reason something down the line happens with moisture failure, the floor is then covered under a warranty repair. If you all proceed with the coating without the moisture vapor primer, any moisture failures in the floor would be a billable repair. meaning they are not covered under warranty. We'd have, we would charge to come back in and remove the failed floor and reinstall if that's what you decided.
I've got a question. So this warehouse space, which is going to be the apparatus space, that concrete's over 30 years old. So is this normal that you would run into something like this, or has this been, or have I missed something? I don't think we put any new concrete in there that I'm aware of.
Correct. Moisture testing is normal. You do that for all epoxy coatings, whether a slab is brand new or 30 years old. You can often see moisture vapor emission in older slabs if the vapor barrier's been jeopardized in any way. There's a lot of things that go in. I don't want to speculate too much as to what's causing the readings. We take the readings and then go by what the manufacturer recommends as far as its tolerances. So there was a little bit of new concrete that was installed along the trench drains. We tested that site and we tested existing concrete sites, and they all read above the threshold quite a bit to what was acceptable.
Any other questions from the council?
Well, so how do you feel, sir, about, do you feel pretty confident that this primer is going to do what you want it to do? And if that moisture is that high?
Yes, this is designed to combat exactly what you have. We install this all the time. Usually it's in new construction when when a schedule is pushing us and the concrete is not quite cured out. But yes, this is a very standard application when you have these conditions. One thing Billy didn't mention is we can these probes that are in the concrete, we can test these pretty much as long as they don't get damaged. So this is not something that you all have to make a decision on today. We can certainly, I've tested them a couple times, but if this is something you'd like to table and have me go back and test in 2 weeks and shoot an email over and let you all see if there's any changes in the level. I don't anticipate there being any given the age of the concrete. I think the levels that we're seeing are probably going to be pretty indicative of what we'll have pretty much all the time. But that's certainly an option if you all like to take that route.
So like the VOC and that type of thing, is that an issue after the building would be open, or are you still planning on applying this finish before the building's open?
The only issue as far as application goes is the temperature. So if we get too far into the winter months, even though the building does have radiant heat, so I think we'd be okay. But no, we're okay as far as application goes in there. VOCs is not going to be an issue for us. The main issue is the relative humidity in the concrete slab gives concern for potential failures with the epoxy coating system that's specified.
And this obviously adds a cost, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
And what would that? Do we know that? Do we know that figure?
It should have been on that email with you. I'm thinking.
I don't remember seeing an email. I apologize for that.
I don't either.
$9,955.
Say that again.
$9,955.
So you got that on top of 30,000 for the coating you had.
Correct.
That was included in the bid.
Yes, sir.
So Chief, what do you have on the floor here at City Hall?
I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's some type of almost like a paint subject that they put down, but it is extremely slick. In fact, during the rain event that we had a few weeks ago, I come walking in and almost did the splits on it and so forth. And whatever that is, it should have never been put down. And Greg could tell you, we've had several firefighters fall on that floor and be injured.
Hey, Chief and Mayor, I have one question, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
And Chief, what I understand, this coating that you're talking about applying is just going to be in the former warehouse area. Is that correct? It's going to be mostly where the trucks and the firemen or firefighters are exiting the trucks. Is that correct?
That's correct. And it's also, they've already put down a layer of it in the gear wash room, which
Okay. So the primary reason that we're having to coat this floor to begin with is because of the safety factor. I mean, you feel like that the bare concrete is going to be slick. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And there's not any other reason to coat that other than the surface.
Right.
Is there anything else? And this might be a question for Joe too. Is there any other way that we can etch that surface to prevent that condition versus putting down some type of a coating?
I don't know how to answer that question, David. I know all these concretes, have been treated with these sealers over the years. And I'm assuming that this Duraflex realizes that and that they'll have that bonding, will bond. But I don't know if you etch it, do you create, these guys are clean freaks. They like their floors clean and easy to clean. I would really be in favor of the product myself. I think it sounds like just the finishing touches to a nice project.
Okay. That's all I have.
Speaking of clean, what about maintenance on this? I know I'm somewhat familiar with this stuff, and auto dealerships have it in their service areas. Does this require a special machine that kind of helps keep this polished and cleaned, and how much maintenance will be ongoing with this if and when it's put down?
It does not require a special machine. You can easily maintain this floor with a deck brush and a hose. With the trench drains that they have in there, the main thing is going to be getting the oils or greases off of the floor. If they're out on a fire and they get into stuff, oily and greasy, and it comes back in, then you want to put a cleaning agent that emulsifies the floor and pulls that oil up off the floor. You then use a deck brush to scrub it to make sure that it's all pulled up out of the aggregate, and then you spray it with your hose and squeegee it, and the floor is back to 100% service use. It does not require any polishing. It doesn't require any special equipment, just a little bit of elbow grease with a deck brush, and it's right back in service and gives you the proper texture, slip resistant that the chief is after.
All right. Any other questions? Chief?
I have a quick question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Does this affect, if we do put this down or if we don't put this down, does this affect our liability insurance premium? Like, would it save us any money on our liability insurance premium because we're doing this?
I can't speak to if the slip resistance would. I can't speak to that. As far as insurance, what this moisture mitigating primer does is it insures you all from any failures related to this high moisture. So if you don't use this primer, then you all have the liability in this floor that 6 months down the road, if it starts bubbling up, and it's because moisture's coming through the floor and creating little pockets of moisture underneath the epoxy coating, that would not be covered under warranty. So this is really a insurance policy based on the current readings of the floor, and the manufacturer recommends the use of that so that we can protect everybody and make sure that if there are any failures that we've already taken all the appropriate steps, and so therefore it would be covered under the warranty, and we would fix that on our dollar and Duraflex's dollar.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more thing, if I may. Sir, do you have a track record of or ever using this in a fire department, an application similar to this?
We've done quite a few fire departments. I'm not sure if we've used the MVP primer in those. I'd have to get with my cohort, Jeff Roby, but we've been installing epoxy coatings in this area since the 90s. We've got a long service record of appropriate installations, and can give you a reference list as long as you'd like. and this product is a good product. It will do exactly what it says it's supposed to do. And I have zero concerns with any sort of bond failure, adhesion failure, if this product is used.
All right, anyone else?
Mayor, I got one question, if I may.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
How will the continued, I guess, traffic from the equipment and the fire trucks affect the resilience of the primer? Will it cause it to fail any quicker?
The primer will actually be coated over. So that's just the first coat of the coating system. So what that does is we will go in and we will mechanically prepare the floor with a shot blast machine. And what that does is that opens up the pores of the concrete and it physically profiles the floor by pulverizing it with steel BBs, and all the dust is self-contained in the machine. So we get a proper profile of the floor. And then we would go in with the moisture mitigating primer and put that down. And what that would do is that then seals the floor so that we know we have zero issues with the moisture coming through it. And then we put our primer down of the epoxy. We broadcast our aggregate into that wet primer. We then come back with another coat of high solids epoxy to encapsulate that. And then we put a top coat of urethane on top, which is UV resistant and abrasion resistant. So that's how the system's built. The primer doesn't really add any, again, it's an insurance thing because the moisture levels in the concrete are high. To ensure that there are no failures due to that, the manufacturer recommends installing it prior to installing the coating system.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, how much will this take us over budget for our fire department?
Currently, if we end up doing this, we're probably going to be a little over 60,000 over budget.
What percent is that, Chief? What is that figure in percent? Roughly, approximately 5?
Close to it. I'm wanting to say 4 point something.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Well, I have to kind of think like Councilman Buckman. I think, it is an extra cost, but I think it would be the right way to finish off the overall project. We basically renovated the entire interior of the department or the facility, and this would certainly finish it off, and I think in a manner that's going to look good, but also hold up long term and provide some good traction that is needed in that part of the facility. So if there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion to add to the overall budget for the fire department this flooring primer, which was it $9,950, Chief?
Yes, let me pull it back up here real quick. $9,955. Yes, sir.
55. Right.
Mayor, I'll make that motion if I'm in order.
Yes, sir. Because we've already got, I think the original coating was already part of the bid, so this is just something that came up, and we've run into this in a lot of other places in this project where we've had to make some changes, so it's not unusual at this point. So we have a motion for adding the primer for $9,955. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
We have a second by Councilman Buckman. Any other discussion?
One more thing, Mayor, just another question I thought of is what again was the warranty on the floor after if we do this properly and add the primer? And is there any limitations to this warranty based on its use because it's a commercial firehouse? And then I'll let it go at that.
What the warranty is a 1-year standard warranty. Typically with epoxy coatings or any resinous flooring, any warranty outside of a year is just adding cost to your system. If you're going to see any sort of failure in the system, whether it's from a workmanship or a material standpoint, you're typically going to see all of that within the first 3 to 6 months. So the 1 year more than covers you for any sort of warranty repair work. And typically any sort of wear and tear outside of that 1 year is going to just be normal wear and tear from the floor. Just as you're using it, you know, it's not impervious to scrapes or gouges or things like that, but it is a very tough and durable system. And yeah, so the warranty basically covers you in the instance of bad workmanship or a bad batch of material or something like that. But outside of your first 6 months, any sort of issues that you'd see with your floor would just, you know, 99% be wear and just normal wear and tear on it.
Is there any limitation written into the warranty for based on its use?
No, I mean, it's as far as
it being a commercial application and having heavy equipment run over it?
No, no, zero limitation on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions or discussions? We do have a motion and a second. Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank
All
you.
right. Now we'll go back. Let's get back to the regular agenda, maybe try to go in order, the balance of the evening, hopefully. Jessica, do you want to speak to us about your bituminous concrete pavement bid?
Yes, this is just our annual street resurfacing bid. And as you can see from the bid tab, Mago Construction is the low bidder at a total of $77.50 per ton. To put that in perspective, this past year, our annual tonnage price for bituminous surface was $85 a ton. So we are, the cost of asphalt has gone down some. I've tried to add a little bit late, but I've emailed everyone a copy of the just resurfacing list. I know you guys as council members and the mayor tend to get a lot of calls about when is my street going to get paved. So I've included what's on the current list for resurfacing this year.
And I think, Jessica, I think we were estimating about 6,250 tons, if that's correct, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yes, that's what we were anticipating with this list, is about 6,250 tons.
Well, I guess the good news is where price is a little cheaper. Bad news is we lost about 50 or 60,000 from the municipal aid, but so we'll get a little bit more tonnage out of than we might have if it had been last year's price. So that helps somewhat.
Yes, that's helping to offset the loss of revenue in the municipal aid fund. I just did a quick number on the known last pave year for a lot of the streets. The average paving cycle is pushing 16 years. So if that's still keeping us a little bit behind, but we're not too bad. We're not too bad.
Right. We don't have to really get into the weeds on the list. That list is just for our information this evening, because I don't think we've had it very long to go through it in detail. The main thing is the price and our goal of laying 6,250 tons this fiscal year. So I would ask them, if there's no other questions of Jessica, that we entertain a motion to approve the recommendation of our engineering department to award the contract to Mago Construction as low bid.
So moved, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Dones. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor, and I'm glad to see it's a local company that we're able to do local business with.
Right, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, Jessica, you want to talk us through, I think this is kind of just some updated paperwork we have to do on our John Rowland multi-use and sidewalk project.
That's correct, Mayor. This is the paperwork that amends the original agreement for the grant, the TAP grant. As you heard us mentioning during bidding time and awarding time, we had been authorized for some monies for phase 2. This amendment just takes that phase 2 money and updates the overall budget schedule. So it totals out the amount is for design. What's left in the utilities line item is truly just what the bid price originally was for the railroad crossing at RJ Corman. So that's coming out of that fund, and everything else is to cover the construction items and so forth. So this is just the paperwork that we've been waiting for so that we can start requesting reimbursement payment for the contractor.
And Jessica, our match, which is a 20%, I think, requirement, that total of $246,000. Is that, I think that does include some of the in-kind, is that correct?
Yes, that includes our own man hours and labor that we're doing for the excavating work out in the field. It's including some of the oversight and inspection work. It's including some of our time to manage the project. So that in-kind work. And again, if our actual construction budget was a little less than this original budget, so there may be the possibility for us to not have that total amount, but there is a little bit in there for contingencies. So, but yes, we have to at least have our in-kind match, our in-kind work plus matching funds be at least 20% or more to get these funds.
Right. Anyone else have any other questions of this amendment? It's really good news that we've got both grants now being able to put together for the overall project, and we're going to be able to complete a much longer portion of this than what we were looking at over the last 2 years with the higher costs per linear foot and less money is available.
That's correct.
Mayor, if I may be in order, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the mayor to sign this contract with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to finish up this John Rowland project.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Hibbs. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. All right, motion is carried. Thank you. All right, I think the next one is Historical Review Board. There's a signed request for the Bardstown Bourbon Company. Rashay, are you with us? Or...
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Excellent. So Bardstown Bourbon Company they originally had a sign out front that was actually within the sign guidelines before we created the campus sign master plan, which allowed for more signage and then for it to be larger depending on the size and square footage of the vicinity or the campus. And so Bardstown Bourbon Company meets those requirements. And essentially what they're proposing is to replace that very small sign they have out front with a much larger sign. But the larger sign is not that far off from our regular reg, so they're not asking for too much more. So for the regular side guidelines, which campus master sign plans are not restricted by, they get to have a little bit more, a little bit larger. For a regular sign size, they would have 7 feet and 75 square feet would be permitted. And what Bardstown Bourbon Company has is basically like a 6-foot sign around 80 square feet. So they're not asking for anything that's triple or quadruple the size. They're just asking to have a really nice sign out front with a few more square feet. So this one was an easy one for me. And I would highly recommend that you all consider it.
Well, that was the whole purpose of the master plan, is to give these type of campuses some flexibility in their signage. And so to Rashae's point, yes, this doesn't really exceed the square footage of normal ground mounted signs on highways. So it is very attractive.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any questions?
So Rashae, we always push to keep signs low. So it's basically, it's actually shorter, lower than the signage replacing. Is that what I understood?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. That is, and made
Very
of much,
tastefully done. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a much nicer material. And the other one was always meant to be kind of temporary until they could get everything going. This is a very nice new permanent sign that's going to really be a lovely addition to their facility.
It does look nice.
All right. Any other questions for Rashae? If not, then I would ask for a motion to approve the sign request from Bardstown Bourbon Company per the campus master sign plan.
So moved, Mayor.
We have a motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
All right, motion.
Yes, Joe.
Second by Councilman Buckman. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, motion is carried. Thank you, Rashae.
Thank you all.
Looks like a nice addition. We've got two sets of minutes, one from our June 23rd meeting, and then we had the short meeting following the next day for a second reading of our budget amendment and budget. Is there any additions or changes to these? If not, we can approve them by unanimous consent. Both the June 23rd and the June 24th meeting. Okay, and the second meeting also, we had a COA in that second meeting on the 24th. All right, we'll just do that by unanimous consent. Thank you. All right, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, of course, we lost Larry Hamilton, and someone who spent over 45 years of his career with us here at the city of Bardstown. So we think it's appropriate that we should read and approve a resolution in his honor and his memory and make it part of the permanent records of the city of Bardstown, and also provide a copy to his family as well as publish a copy in the local newspaper. If I could, I'd ask someone to introduce this resolution R 2020-04.
Mayor, I'd be happy to do that. Introduce resolution R 2020-04, Larry Hamilton's.
All right. Audrey, are you with us? Would you like to read this for us, please?
Yes, I would be happy to read it, Mayor. Resolution R 2020-04, a resolution to recognize Lawrence Allen Hamilton. Whereas Lawrence Allen Larry Hamilton was born in 1947 in Lebanon, Kentucky to parents John and Margaret Hamilton. And whereas Larry graduated from the University of Kentucky in 1969 with a Bachelor of Arts in Education degree. And whereas Larry was married to Mary Ellen Belcour in 1972 and they had 4 sons, Matthew Allen, Paul Blaine, Patrick Thomas, and Michael Andrew. And whereas Larry received his degree as a professional civil engineer in 1977, and whereas Larry was a dedicated employee of the city of Bardstown for over 45 years, serving as city administrator, city engineer, and the director of public works and engineering. And whereas Larry was instrumental in improving the city of Bardstown's utilities, including water, sewer, electric, and cable. And whereas Larry served on many charitable boards, including Flagey Memorial Hospital and St. Joseph Catholic Church. And he worked closely with the Bardstown City Council. And whereas Larry has been dedicated and loyal in his years of public service to the city of Bardstown and will be greatly missed. Now therefore be it resolved by J. Richard Heaton, Mayor of the City of Bardstown, that this resolution be spread upon the permanent official records of the city, and that a copy thereof be presented to the family of Lawrence Allen Hamilton in recognition of his years of dedicated service to the city of Bardstown.
All right, thank you, Audrey. And I'd like to ask for a motion then that we approve this resolution, R20-20, excuse me, R2020-04, and as a permanent record for the city of Bardstown.
So moved, Mayor.
Have a motion by Councilman Jones. Is there a
I'll
second?
second, Mayor.
Second, Councilwoman Hart. As far as discussion, I'd just like to say that those of us who were at the service and at the graveside service, his son Andrew did a wonderful job of kind of giving us kind of Larry's history as a public servant. And as we all know, Larry was brilliant, not only as an engineer, but in so many things, which made him, you know, just immensely valuable to us. There's rare that engineers can have the background that he had, that he was able to handle electrical and cable and internet and water treatment, sewer treatment and distribution, and then the public works side. I mean, he had his hand in all those things, and you know, through a tremendous growth period, you know, starting back in the early 70s. And you know, we were just blessed that Larry chose the city of Bardstown to be his career primarily. He could have had a lot of opportunities, as many of you all know, that with that kind of talent, he could have done a lot of things and probably made a lot more money and maybe had a lot less headaches on the weekends and all that. But he got started here. He fell in love with the city of Bardstown, you know, in his job. But of course, he loved his hometown, and he loved all the people, not just here in Bardstown, but in Nelson County. And it showed because of the dedication that he had. And even after he got sick, he continued to work for several months, even going through his treatments. And just a remarkable guy. And you know, we're going to miss him, but we're just grateful that we had him for all those years. And I think I counted up, he served under 6 mayors, and I think all 6 of them, if they were still here, they'd all say he helped them in many, many ways, both professionally and personally. So just wanted to add that to this resolution from my personal experience here at the city with Larry. So thank you all. All right. We'll move on then. We have a mobile vendor permit, and this is an application to be approved as a mobile food vendor, but really, I think the purpose of it is, the plan is, I think, is they're only going to be at Fuji Seal, I think on 2 occasions. Gary Little, is that correct on this?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Yeah, they're from Louisville. They're based in Louisville, and Fuji Seal has been setting up food trucks to come in and feed their employees, basically, especially with the COVID going on and people not being able to get out and eat as much at restaurants or not feeling comfortable with that even. So we might see 2 or 3 more of these where they're planning on just coming in for a day or 2, and you know, maybe they'll come back in the future too once they're approved. But that's what their request is.
So I think what we've got in front of us shows that all their information is up to date, including their insurance. And then you've got a picture here that shows the vehicle that they use for this food truck service. So does anyone else have any questions of Gary on this application?
I just have a general question, not necessarily about this one specifically, but once we approve them, is there an expiration date or are they just approved forever?
They're approved pending renewal of their insurance. Their business license is good from the day they sign up for that. But they do have to renew their annual statewide permit for the health department and their insurance. So we review their paperwork on a pretty regular basis.
Thank you.
And then we also get an application for these that are operating in different locations. We get applications throughout the year on when they're going to various locations. It lets us know the time and place they will be. So that's also part of their operational requirements here at the city.
That they can't be in any one place more than 14 days in a row.
I think that's correct.
That is correct.
Okay, if could then, I'd ask for a motion then to approve the application for Smoking Cantina's mobile food vendor permit.
So moved, Mayor.
Was that Councilman Hibbs on the motion, and who was the second?
That would be Buckman, sir.
Okay, Councilman Buckman on the second then.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right. About to get finished up here. I'm going to ask Aaron Bowes, our CFO, to give us an update on the second round of our small business grant relief program.
Thank you, Mayor. The phase 2 of the small business relief program wrapped up last Monday, 4:30 p.m., July 6th. To wrap that up, we received a total of 85 applications. 73 of those were eligible, and 12 were not eligible, just based upon the type of business they were operating, revenues, things like that. I think it was agreed upon by the committee that we were going to do a blanket $2,000 grant to each of the eligible applicants. So for all 73 recipients, they'll get $2,000. That will be a total of $146,000 in grants. And this program is being funded equally between the city and county. So city's portion will be 73 and county's portion will be $73,000 also. So, and I think we've mentioned this in the past, but under our the CARES relief funding, we're going to seek reimbursement for this program. At least the city is. We have a maximum allocation of $946,576 available in the CARES grant. We've already applied for $395,000, so we'll add this 73 into that reimbursement request from the state related to the CARES Act. So after all these have been submitted, we'll have a remainder of $477,837 left in CARES Act relief funding from the state.
Aaron, can I ask a question? Does that grant, does that go through the end of this year, 2020?
Yes, the CARES grant through the state, that 946 is available through December 31st of this year.
So it's a good possibility we could use it all.
We definitely will use all of every last bit of that.
All right. Any other questions for Aaron? All right. Thank you, Aaron, for the update. Gary Little just reminded me, I think I got to talking about Larry Hamilton after the motion in the second. I don't think I asked for a formal vote on that. So I would like to go back to the resolution now, and we have a motion in the second and ask for a vote to approve the resolution R 2020-04. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Sorry about that. I got to thinking more about Larry and not the meeting operation. So, all right, the last things we got on the agenda, we have some cemetery deeds. We have Deborah Stemmel, 2 grave sites, James and Valerie Williams, 1 grave site, Dwayne and Laura Livers, 1 grave site, and William Berry, 1 grave site. We'll approve them by unanimous consent. As far as the mayor's update, I don't have a lot. I think some of you already got the information that this Friday at 11 a.m. at the new Fire Station 1, we will formally dedicate Arch Pendergrass Way at 11 a.m. So we'd like to invite you and all of you all and members of the media and the public in general, if they'd like to join members of the Pendergrass family and our firemen and other staff here from the city to join us at 11 o'clock. We're excited about that. As far as the COVID update, I don't have anything today. We did have 7 new cases yesterday, but now that does typically on Monday, the report would count anything that hit on Saturday and Sunday would also be counted on the Monday report. That brings us to 116 cases here in the county. Yesterday did have a little bit of unusual. We had 2 18-year-olds were diagnosed along with a 21 and a 22-year-old. So 4 out of the 7 yesterday's cases were pretty young. So again, it shows that the virus is not just affecting vulnerable older people in our society. So as we've said earlier, these cases have basically doubled in the last 30 days, the number of cases that we have now versus where we were a month ago, which is a high rate per day. Kentucky in general, as a state, was averaging 134 cases per day in April. And as of last week, that number had grown to 328 cases a day. So it is spreading. The number of people in hospitals throughout the state is increasing. It's not simply more tests means more cases. There's also more people being hospitalized. But it's good that we do have a lot more testing available because we can contact trace after that and hopefully get a handle on it. And with that said, we're also aware that as of last Friday, the governor ordered effective 5 p.m. last Friday that everyone going into public places should be wearing masks. And I've gotten some feedback here at City Hall since Friday, the last couple of days. Just about everyone coming in here is wearing a mask now, and that's good to see. Kind of gotten mixed results around the community. I haven't gone into a lot of retail places since last Friday, but those that I have been into, I have seen more people wearing masks than I had seen in days and weeks before. We still are getting complaints at City Hall here. People do still call in and report businesses where the employees are not wearing masks or people are not practicing social distancing. So just want to close on this discussion by saying that, you know, it's really the only remedy we have right now is to wear a mask and wash our hands and social distance. If we're going to get a handle on this, we really need to follow these guidelines and do these best practices, because that's what worked back in 1918 with the Spanish flu, and it's the only thing we know that's going to work right now. So I'm happy to see that it looks like people are abiding by it much better than they were when it was voluntary. I've asked the council members if any of you all have any comments to make on what you've observed over the last 4 days since the governor's order.
I went to a funeral yesterday, Mayor, and absolutely every single person, man, woman, and child, had their mask on. So that was an encouraging sight to see.
Yeah, I went to the visitation, and before the funeral, I saw the same thing. So, and also at Larry Hamilton's funeral last Friday, everyone who went to the church had to wear a mask, and everyone was wearing masks at the gravesite. Any other council members have anything to say on this?
Mayor, I think I noticed the same thing. I think there are more, the masks are more prevalent than they were a couple of weeks ago. I think people really do think that we have a serious problem now, and that's the best way we can help it. I do see more people using them. I do. I feel good about it.
And Aaron, what's the, I know we still have quite a few available. We have gotten some calls from people, businesses out in the community. So we still have masks for sale to businesses in Bardstown and Nelson County. What's the total there, Aaron?
Yes, sales have picked up since the governor's announced his mandate last week. We sold 2,800 since July 9th. But as of today, we still have 40,395 masks available for sale. And they're 50 cents a piece. You can call City Hall and we'll take the order for you.
All right, thank you. All right, if nothing else, I could ask for a motion for adjournment then.
So moved.
All right, motion by Councilman Buckman. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
All right, Councilwoman Hart on the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all. Appreciate it.